Go to Jennifer Carroll McNeil, who's the Minister of State with responsibility for financial services, credit unions and insurance. And boy, couldn't I spend hours chatting to her about the portfolio she has, but today we're restricted on time. But the Minister was due to come down and speak at the Credit Union Managers Association Spring AGM tomorrow morning at the Galway Bay Hotel, but due to the Dáil schedule, she now has to deliver that speech virtually. But the Minister joins us on the line today. Minister, good morning to you. How are you today?
Good morning, how are you? And my condolences also to Anne Rabbitte and her family, the Rabbitte family.
It's a tough one for them, it's just so sudden. Yeah. Coming back to your portfolio, financial services, credit unions and insurance, the best part of that, by the way, is the credit unions. You're missing a good gathering, I would think, in the Galway Bay tomorrow, but needs must, you have to be there for the vote.
I'm missing a great gathering of credit union managers from right across the country, whom I would have loved to speak to directly, sit down, have coffee, at the edge of the conference, talk to them about what's going on in their credit unions, what's going on with their staff, what's going on with their members, what's going on in the towns and villages that they represent right across Ireland. I would love to hear about their plans, because credit unions have extraordinary plans for more lending, for more current accounts, for more online presence, for better services for their members. I would love to have talked to them about that programme of reform that they're going through, that I'm trying to support with legislation in the Dáil at the moment to give them more powers to do mortgage lending in particular. So I would have loved to have stayed and talked to everybody there and to be in Galway more broadly and speak to business in Galway. But as you say, Keith, unfortunately I have to stay in Dublin because of a Labour Party motion in the government, which you have to stay for. You have to be there. You have to be there to vote, because if you don't, then the government could fall and there could be an election, which I'm not sure is of value to many people at the moment, when there's so much work to be done, as I've just described. Absolutely. That kind of work has to happen all the time.
No, and you can't get hearings. And look, you are a member of the party, you have to be there, and that's it. Going back to what the credit unions want to achieve, and I've spoken to them down through the last long number of years, and some of the finest people in the country are in the credit union movement here in Galway. But there are restrictions on them, and the central bank seem to have a hold on a lot of what they really want to achieve. And I know the central bank has to regulate financial institutions, including credit unions. They did a damn bad job with the banks, but they seem to be just really focusing on the credit unions, where the credit unions have some very good ideas.
There's huge opportunity for the credit unions, and even, of course, they have to be regulated, as banks also have to be regulated. Yeah. But even within the current structure, there's an awful lot more that can be done right now, and there's an awful lot more that will be able to be done again when I get this legislation through, which I'm nearly done. It'll be done before the summer. And that'll give credit unions the opportunity to provide more services for members, but also to work together and to pool their efforts and the resources to be able to do better mortgage lending, for example. To be able, if one credit union doesn't offer or doesn't want to go further, wants to stay in its own model at the moment, but to be able to refer some of its members to other credit unions to be able to get a current account or to be able to get a mortgage. And the real value of doing it this way is we can be totally ambitious for the credit union sector overall. Individual credit unions or groups of them can go as far as they want to with mortgages, go as far as they want to with lending, really use the savings that they have to be able to support communities, to be able to support their members. And other credit unions who want to stay in the space that they're currently in, maybe a little bit smaller, maybe focus on the things that they're already doing, there's space for them to do that too. And to do all of this with the values of the credit union being absolutely central, with the community focus being absolutely central. And I want to be an advocate for credit unions to be able to do all of those things and retain the really strong community focus that they have. I mean, credit unions are the most trusted brand in Ireland. They have a personal network right across Ireland, personal relationships with their members. And I think they can be a really strong force in the Irish banking and in the Irish financial sector. Credit unions have, assets of up to 20 billion euros at the moment, Keith, but only about 5 billion of that is lent back into communities at the moment. And I mean, I certainly think that can be close to doubled to provide more lending into communities that need it, and different types of lending to business, for example. Credit unions are already phenomenal at lending to agriculture and to the agriculture sector, but there's more that can be done on business, there's more that can be done on mortgages, and I think that gives communities right across Ireland a more financial options, but also more financial options with a real human, with a real person there at the end of the phone or dropping into the office. So it's a wonderful opportunity for credit unions, and I'm doing everything I can to amplify them and to support them and to advocate for them everywhere I can. Thank you for letting me do it today.
No, but I'm with you. Do you know, I'll disagree with you on politics maybe, but on this I'm listening to you and I fully agree with you. We came from the Claddagh last Friday. We do these community matters. We do 3 hours every second Friday. And we came from the Claddagh. And one of the stories that came out of the Claddagh was that the Claddagh Credit Union, which is one of the biggest 3 credit unions in Galway City and County currently. So you'd have St. Jarlath's, you'd have St. Columbus, and you'd have the Claddagh. But the Claddagh Credit Union came from a bunch of people who gathered after Mass in the school hall to try and set up a credit union. Now we're going back 65 years ago, but look at where they've come if they didn't. But then we had a story, and I'm old enough to remember the story, about 7-8 years ago, where I know that the credit union movement went to the government and said, we have a couple of billion on deposit in the banks. Why don't you take that money, use it for social housing, build the social housing, we get a return for our members, and hey presto, everybody wins. But the banks stopped that, and it never happened.
Well, you know, I'm with you on the origins of the credit union. My dad actually was the first manager of the credit union in Tullamore, which was set up 60 years ago, and they're having their birthday. My granddad was one of the people setting it up, and my dad was the first manager while he was on holidays from college until it got going, you know. So I'm very much with you on the history of the credit unions. And you're right. I mean, what credit unions want to do is to lend more into the economy. Now, the social housing piece is there. I believe only about, you know, the opportunity hasn't been fully realised. There's more that credit unions can do there. I was speaking about this in the Dáil. I think it's about 13-14 million that has been lent into that. But there's no question but that they can do more. And to be honest, some of those powers are more than well there already, if I can say to you, Keith.
Good.
But what we want is that credit unions are confident about taking these next steps into more and more lending of lots of different kinds. That credit unions can collaborate together. I was to be able to do mortgage lending. But what I'm watching, though, with the credit union sector is people grabbing this opportunity. I was at the launch of an artificial intelligence sort of product that will help credit unions make decisions about loans much more quickly. So they'll be able to respond to consumer needs much more quickly, but they'll still be able to do it with a very personal face. That the decisions can be delivered with a human contact. It's not all about robots doing any of these things. But why is it important? It's important because some of the threats to the credit union sector are maybe groups like Revolut, fintech companies that can do these things very easily on your phone, very, very quickly. So the credit union, if it's going to really take the opportunity to thrive and still retain its community focus, needs to grab some of those fintech opportunities itself to be able to deliver comparable services, because we just don't want them losing the great standing that they have in the community at the moment to people doing everything on their phones. Credit unions can do both. So it was really heartening for me, and it was really encouraging for me to see the credit unions driving and leading this, and it's so encouraging to see them taking those different opportunities. And what we want to do in government, and what I want to do as Minister advocating for them, is make sure that they have every opportunity, whether it's legislative, whether it's policy, in my dialogue with the central bank. Of course, every financial institution has to be regulated and regulated properly. We know that from our own experience. We know that from as we look around the world. But that's not to say that there isn't a great deal more that credit unions can do in every community. And I'm so excited about it.
Well, do you know what? I'm sure they'll be delighted as well, just even to have you virtually tomorrow, because you do bring that energy to it, and they need that energy. They need that support. They haven't had it for a while, but they do need it. Can I go to this vote of no confidence? Obviously, I mean, you're going to be supported by the independents, Sean Kennedy, Dennis Naughton, Michael Lowry, Cathal Berry, the others. I don't know about Mr. Fitzmaurice. Is this just taking up time that could otherwise be dealt with social housing or other problems the government has?
Well, I mean, you know, we had this vote last week. You know, this last week's vote was 183 to 68, and I think 5 of the 8 TDs in Galway voted for it. The reality is that government has to be able to get on with its work. There is a programme for government agreed by 3 parties on behalf of the people. We are implementing that. We are providing stability in the economy so people maintain their jobs. We are providing cost of living supports to people. We're focused completely on housing, and these sorts of having the same discussion 2 and 3 times on the same issue, the same vote, it isn't productive, and it's keeping me from going and talking to credit unions about mortgage lending so that first-time buyers can have easier access to mortgages. It's keeping me, just by way of example, from going to Galway to listen to business on how the new supports, on the business energy supports, how the new scheme is working. It's keeping me from doing all of that work, not just on behalf of the government in the Department of Finance, but in my own constituency, all of the other TDs in their constituency, to instead of talking about other things and instead of delivering other things. So it is look, unfortunate, but that's politics, and people play politics from time to time, and we have to just get on with things.
And will the independents come on side to get this through again? I take it they will. I mean, Sean Kenny did say on the Week in Politics, my vote last week was based on what was in front of me last week. It's no indication of what I'm going to do this week. I mean, come on, Sean. What? Well,
I think, look, the focus here is about making sure that we are delivering housing, that we are delivering supply. There is, we want to make sure that landlords stay in the market. Every landlord who stays in the market is a tenant who also has an opportunity to rent a property. And we have to have more homes for purchase. We have to have more homes for rental as well. So, we're trying to do all of that. And I know that the independents have ideas which were discussed last week and which have been taken on board. And what we'd like to, this is essentially the same conversation this week. So what's really important now is that we get on with the business of delivering for the people of Ireland and not having the same conversation week in, week out.
Noel Grealish was not present last week, but he will be present this week, so you're saved. I mean, he's thrown you the life ring altogether. And that vote is taking place tomorrow, but until then, you have to remain on the focus of that. Minister, thank you for joining us today. Keep up the passion for the credit unions. Keep an eye on the insurance companies, please, and the financial services as well. But out of those 3 that you do act as Minister for, the credit unions are a very special one.